So I'm just doing one of my favourite little jobs actually at this time of year, which is to plant my early potatoes. So these are Charlottes, these were home saved, and I chitted these in December, so they're pretty big now and they're ready to be potted on into their bigger pots. I like to start them like this just because it's a space thing, you know, they don't take up very much space in these little pots. When they get in their big 35 litre containers, you know, they're taking 2 or 3 times as much space. So I've got 4 of these and they're all looking really great. And they're just going to live in the conservatory in the corners behind me here. They get a little bit of spillover light from the grow lights behind me that are above this shelving unit. And they grow really big, because the light levels in here, even with that little bit of spillover light from the grow lights, are really low at this time of year. So the plants just seek light and just grow really big. So they're going to grow 6 foot tall, and so they're going to need canes in to support them. Otherwise, obviously, they would just flop over. But it's just a really nice thing to do, I think, you know, because it means that you can plant your effectively main crop potatoes back in, you know, like I did, sort of 5th of January or something like that time, and, you know, harvest them kind of, you know, late April, early May sort of time. And that is just when all of our stored potatoes are really starting to sprout and sort of lose quality. So it just means we get a nice continuity of supply. So we'll do a batch in January, and then we'll do a batch sort of in March, and then another batch in April, and that just gives us enough to get us all the way through the year with lovely main crop sort of baking potato size potatoes. We'll do early potatoes for new potatoes as well, of course, but today it's all about main crop potatoes. I'm just reusing potato compost from last year, and it's been left outside. I've just harvested potatoes from it, and so it's nice and moist. And I want it nice and moist, but I'm going to top it with 2 or 3 inches of effectively dry new compost, not potato compost, just general purpose compost. The reason I'm doing that is because the potato compost, the old stuff, is really moist. And if you just have really moist compost in a nice warm environment like the conservatory, you're just going to get fungus gnats. So in order to prevent that, just keep a nice dry layer on top, water from the bottom, and your potatoes will be fine. Conditioning my potato compost with bloodfish and bone meal, just a couple of handfuls. I think that's all I need. There's only going to be 2 tubers per 35 litre container, which is pretty low in terms of density, but I find that that is about best if you want actually good sized main crop potatoes in late April and early May. And so yeah, with that I'll just get on and do it, and I'll show you how it finishes up. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So basically I just stick about 6 inches of compost in the bottom there, loads of bloodfish and bone, and let's just turn these out. I might have just left them in just a little tiny bit too long because they are a bit tight in there, but really good little root system. Potatoes starting to form, so looking pretty good. And obviously I'm going to bury them in these pots. As I say, I am going to put the canes in as well. Again, really nice. You see the little potatoes. So they're looking, I'm really pleased with those. And it's nice that they're going to have a little bit of leaf showing, because that means that they're just going to keep on growing at a really fast rate. So I'm going to fill these up now. So now I'm just topping them with this dry multi-purpose compost, just over the top, a couple of inches, keep the fungus gnats away. And I think I've already mentioned that obviously these are main crop potatoes, got to emphasise that. My new potatoes, I generally do Swift, and I'll actually be starting those towards the end of January because they're much faster growing, sort of 75 to 90 days, whereas these are 120 days. So these need to be started nice and early. And the Swift, I don't have space to have those in the conservatory, But I will start them, the first batch at least, in the same way, just in these containers. And that just gives me a few weeks start, and it means that I can be harvesting those about the same time as these, you know, sort of the middle of April to the end of April for the first one, and then a bit later on for the second batch. So yeah, it works nice. It's nice to have a continuity of supply, and that's what we try to do with all the types of veg that we grow, that we like to have all year round, things like beetroot and carrots and lettuces and radishes, you know, all onions, all the basics. So I do have a little ebook that one of the chapters in that is all about growing potatoes all year round. There's loads of other growing guides in there, as well as lots of other content. I do think it's fun to grow potatoes all year round. We don't eat a huge amount of potatoes, but we eat enough that it's a really worthwhile thing to do. But you do have to be keen. You know, growing potatoes in your conservatory isn't for everybody. We really like it, Debbie and I, because it's just like all this lush greenery at a time of year when really all we're seeing are seedlings. So it's just really nice to have that kind of, as I say, that lush green in the conservatory. And it's just nice to watch them grow, because they grow so fast. And little grandkid, he really likes to watch them, and particularly likes to get out and harvest them in May. So there we go. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.